you just will never be a good fighter. So I wish that I could have knocked him out at the start. But as we saw,
me like sparring.
Yeah.
When I watched it, which, you know, look, I paid for it. They got me. I thought it was going to be a real fight.
No emotion, a job and a mission that needs to be completed.
And as soon as it broke out, I was over on the other side and I go, I know exactly what that is.
The world of combat sports has always been a theater of the unexpected. But what happens when the lines between a high-stakes athletic competition and a choreographed digital spectacle begin to blur? We recently witnessed a collision of two entirely different universes.
Completely different animal, but in terms of memories...
I thought it was a bitch move. I really did.
Have you spoken?
I would never. If you chin someone at a presser, if you do that, it's different. But when
the disciplined, legacy-driven world of heavyweight boxing and the high-octane, influencer-led era of the event bout, it was a matchup that many felt shouldn't exist.
And he took it. Jake Paul took it. Oh, the right hand by Paul.
Even if he does land his best shot at the moment, not that much is going to happen.
And it almost. Oh, there's a left hook.
A two-time heavyweight champion and Olympic gold medalist standing across from a YouTuber-turned-fighter with barely a dozen matches to his name. The tension surrounding this event didn't just stem from the physical mismatch. It was fueled by a bombshell revelation that left even the most seasoned observers, including Joe Rogan, in a state of genuine shock.
He has had no real professional opponents other than Tommy Fury that were legitimate world-class boxers.
Yeah.
The problem is he was like a famous kid, and then no one took him seriously.
Yeah.
Anthony Joshua, a man built like a Greek god and possessing the power of a one-punch killer, reportedly dropped a massive revelation. There were pushes about to be scripted. Joshua, however, held a firm line. For him, the ring is a sacred space where the risk is real or it's nothing at all.
You know, but me, I'm gonna speak my mind. I'm just gonna keep it 100, man. Jake Paul is fugazi. He's fake. That's how you feel. Truly feel. I'll bust him up and his...
He made it crystal clear that he would only agree to a real fight with real consequences. No predetermined narratives, no safety nets, and no fake drama. This refusal to play along with a choreographed outcome highlights the growing divide in how we perceive modern boxing. Rogan pointed out that Jake Paul's rise has been shadowed by accusations of facing compliant opponents.
Unfortunately, there is going to be there needs to be an inquiry straight after this. Why? What? But that's what I'm hearing. This news is as fresh to me as it is you. I'm quite sure when this goes out, it'll be all over the place anyway.
Fighters who, while famous, might have been playing a part in a larger promotional play. Critics argue that these victories are little more than record padding, designed to artificially inflate rankings and manufacture a title contender narrative without ever forcing the fighter to face elite, world-class competition. When you sit down and look at the logistics of this pairing, as Chael Sonnen did, the math simply stops adding up.
Assumed that wealth would take away your drive for
but
competition.
It hasn't, yeah.
He's also nuts, right? Just
Yeah.
the fact that he's willing to fight the two-time heavyweight champion, former Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah.
A guy who's gigantic in his prime, built like a Greek god.
In any other era of boxing, a fighter with only 11 professional bouts would never be permitted to share a ring with an Olympic medalist and a seasoned world champion. The gap in ring IQ, experience, and raw skill is not just a hurdle. It is a chasm. Sonnen's analysis hits on a fundamental truth of the sport. Boxing is supposed to be a sweet science built on tiers of progression. To suggest that a novice could compete with a master of the craft is to suggest that the sport itself isn't real. If a guy with 11 fights can genuinely compete with a heavyweight king, then what does that say about the decades of training required to reach the Olympic stage? The mismatch wasn't just technical, it was physical. We are talking about a massive weight disparity. The idea that someone who recently considered matchups in much lighter divisions could suddenly find a way to navigate the 250-pound power of Anthony Joshua is, in the eyes of many experts, a violation of sporting logic. Trainers and commissions usually act as the gatekeepers of fighter safety, and this matchup raised eyebrows because it seemed to ignore the very rules designed to keep athletes from life-altering injuries. Tim Bradley, a man who has lived and breathed boxing his entire life, offered perspective that was as raw as it was unfiltered. He didn't hold back, calling the entire situation fugazi, a fake. For Bradley, the issue isn't just about the fight itself. It's about the integrity of the lifer. I can't knock your hustle when you build something outside of boxing, but I'm not going to believe you're the face of boxing. That's for a lifer. Bradley's critique touches on the salesman aspect of the influencer boxing movement. He argues that while these events are undeniably entertaining and pull in staggering viewership numbers, they shouldn't be confused with the pinnacle of the sport. To him, the danger lies in the misleading examples set for aspiring fighters. If the path to the top is paved with scripted outcomes and hand-picked opponents rather than the grueling climb to the ranks, the very soul of boxing is at risk. Yet, there is another side to this coin. Daniel Cormier, an elite athlete who knows the pressure of the spotlight, found himself caught between skepticism and respect. He initially joked that anyone would fight for $100 million. And let's be honest, most of us would. But he couldn't ignore the bravery required to actually step through those ropes. Cormier pointed to the Paul family's natural athleticism, specifically citing Logan Paul's success in the WWE as evidence of their physical potential. He noted that Jake Paul's ability to survive round with Joshua, even if he was running, required a level of conditioning and resilience that shouldn't be dismissed. Moving constantly, dodging power shots from a 250-pound giant, and managing energy reserves under that kind of pressure is an athletic feat in its own right, even if it isn't championship boxing. From the perspective of Eddie Hearn, the fight was a masterclass in patient promotion and tactical execution. Hearn's strategy for Joshua was never about a wild, first-round knockout that might carry unnecessary risk. Instead, it was a slow burn, a plan to control the pace with the opponent down and secure a decisive finish that left no room for debate. Hearn observed that Joshua was almost surprised by the rush people expected from him. Joshua knew that a measured approach was safer and more effective. It allowed him to assert dominance without falling into the traps that a squirmy or unconventional fighter might set. For the promotional team, the fact that both fighters walked away without life-changing injuries was a victory. In a sport where a single punch can end a career or change a life forever, safety often matters more than the hype of a quick finish. Perhaps the most vivid description of the night came from the analytical minds who saw the fight as a basic struggle for survival. They compared Jake Paul to a gazelle and Anthony Joshua to a cheetah. In the wild, a gazelle sometimes outruns a cheetah not because it's faster, but because it is fueled by a fear that forces it to survive. Paul wasn't in the ring to win. He was in the ring to not get destroyed. He used every inch of the canvas to stay away from the one-punch killer stalking him. But as Lawrence Oakley pointed out, that kind of movement has a price. It is exhausting to stay switched on for every second, knowing that a single lapse in concentration results in waking up on the canvas. The experts called it a bank robbery in broad daylight. Paul stepped in, gave it a go, survived the storm, and walked away with a payday that most world champions will never see in their entire careers. While critics like Luke Thomas argue that we shouldn't overreact to Paul's survival, as if it were a tactical victory, others suggest that the spectacle actually does something positive for the sport. It brings eyes. The undercard was heavy with female talent, providing a platform for fighters who might otherwise never get that level of exposure. As the dust settles, the debate continues to rage across sports circles. Is Jake Paul a brave athlete who is genuinely improving, or is he a master salesman who has found a way to monetize the unknown factor of heavyweight boxing? Joshua's composure throughout the event reminded us why professional boxers are in a league of their own. He didn't need to be smug. He simply did his job. He took a light sparring session, as some called it, and turned it into a massive payday, proving that experience and discipline will almost always triumph over hype when the stakes are real.